weekend is nearing, and we certainly appreciate you checking out the Sportsline Podcast on the CHCH media platform. As always, athletes, teams, broadcasters, and sports executives from the Golden Horseshoe, well, always they are our focus, and never in the budding history of the Sportsline Podcast have we had someone with this much experience. So much so that if you are watching on YouTube, we're going to show it all to you. With over 45 years of experience in the CFL, NFL, NCAA, USFL, Major League Football, and the Arena League. Well, there's a reason why Michael McCarthy is wearing so many rings on his fingers. Well, in the minds of many, his ability to build winning teams based on evaluation and acquisition of talent, and doing so within proper financial boundaries, is unchallenged. In Hamilton, he was a key member of football operations and player personnel for those Tiger Cat teams that were Grey Gup champions in 1986. And oh yeah, you got to go all the way back to 1999. Mike McCarthy, I consider you football royalty, and I'm not trying to embarrass you here, but you put in a lot of time and certainly have had a lot of success. Thank you for joining us here.
That's why I've been married for 46 years. I was never home.
I guess so. Yeah. You're always looking at talent on the football field. And I'll tell you, first of all, how you doing?
Good. Just, the bones are getting a little more stiff, and, some muscle pulls now that you didn't get before, but I'm getting them all fixed, so.
Well, this is the crazy thing. I mean, when you were growing up back in the day, did you envision yourself as a football player?
Yes. I mean, that's what the purpose was. I came from a very good football high school, Rome Free Academy in upstate New York, up in the Adirondack area. And we were one of the winningest schools in North America during the history of the school. And that was the whole thing. Just win, baby, is what the line was. It was all about winning. It didn't matter what sport we were at. I was a football, lacrosse, wrestling guy, and then rugby in the summer, and summer lacrosse. And that's what we all did, and we won a lot of championships in swimming and gymnastics and basketball also. So, I mean, it was really a great little city to about 60,000 people, and it was right, what they call SAC Command used to be there, Strategic Air Command. They were the B-52s that would fly every 12 hours, come down, and they circle around Canada, right over there near Russia, during the Cold War, and then they'd land at noon and take off again. Another wing would go up at midnight. So we got to know athletes from all around the nation came to Rome because their dad was in the Air Force. So they would come in. We may have Bubba, you had you for 2 or 3 years. You might have been 1 year, and your dad got transferred. So there goes another good one. You know what I mean? So it was like that. So I had a lot of friends around the country. Then, going to school in Kansas and play football out there in a small college, and then going to grad school at Oklahoma, and then getting on the coaching staff was the door that opened me into everything, because that's where all the NFL scouts were going. Met them all, met GMs and stuff when I was 21, 22 years old. So, and learned how to break film down, and eventually I got on the coaching staff, and the year after I was on the staff, I replaced a guy named Mike Shanahan. Mike was a working assistant coach, but he was on one of the 12 coaches. You could have 8 full-time, 12 part-time. Usually, you ran the dormitories. You worked in the weight room. I mean, you did a little bit of everything. And Mike left in. God, it was 76, December 76. They took me to the Fiesta Bowl in Phoenix, okay? We went to the Fiesta Bowl, the University of Oklahoma, and Shanahan was there with us. He had an interview with Northern Arizona University, and they were looking for a receiver coach. So Mike's from a football family. His dad, was a big-time high school coach in Illinois, and so he went on and left. So his position opened up on that 12. So I'm already in grad school. I've been helping out with football, just working for nothing. Maybe they give me a lunch or something every day or something. And then I went home from there to see my parents, because I hadn't been home for a while, and in New York. And my wife now was in Wichita in medical school. So, it's like, okay, let's we'll go back home, both of us, and then I'll go back to Oklahoma and finish my degree, and then, go to look for a real job. So I go out and see some friends on the East Coast. Well, after all this, Coach Switzer's been calling my house, my mom and dad's, Barry Switzer,
okay.
my parents' house, looking for me because he wanted me to get back there because recruiting was starting. And Shanahan, he says, well, I replaced Mike Shanahan, so I got his position. And I'm running the athletic dorms, and with all sports, had the basketball players, the gymnasts, Bart Connor. Bart was, we all knew each other, Bart went on to get many gold medals, Olympic gold medals, and married somebody named Nadia Comaneci.
Yeah.
So that was, and we had all kinds of basketball players and a lot of good baseball players too, Oklahoma. Because Mickey Mantle was just from down the road there, and the Mantle kids I recruited his nephews to play at OU. It was one of my stops up there in the northeastern corner of Oklahoma. So, but it's all been one thing, and probably the greatest thing I could take from there was Coach Switzer said, I know it's about year 2. I was there for 4 years. And he says, Mike, how do you like it here? I said, well, okay, we have great coaches. I mean, we're winning. You just won a couple national championships. We've been Big 8 champs every year I've been there. Going to Orange Bowls, went to all these things, And I go, we got great coaches. He goes, let me tell you something. It isn't the coaches, it's the players. We got the best players. So that's what you focused on, was recruiting. And then we would spread out now. We were going to California now. Then we were going to Florida. Usually it was just Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, Colorado, New Mexico. But now we made gone totally across the United States, so and Canada too. So
And what's amazing to me is, okay, so you're fully entrenched in football operations at this point, and I guess you've decided right now that I'm going to be an evaluator of talent. What I need to ask you is a pretty dumb question. Can you look at someone, or at least, I don't know how much you do it now, I know you do a little bit, but in those days when it was mass recruiting, could you look at a player and basically within 10 seconds know yes, no, yes, no?
Pretty much so, yeah. After being at Oklahoma and then playing college football in Kansas with a mixture of Texans, Okies, Kansans, Nebraska kids, Missouri kids. So we had a bunch of kids from Long Island, Sayville, North Comac, Islip, East Islip, all there at this little college we were together. So we were mixed in with that, that bunch, and then you get to the Kansas kids, and they get, the weekend football season is over. Hey, Mike, you want to go ride some bulls? And I go, what do you mean? You're down the fairgrounds? Yeah. You mean like bronking bulls? Because So I did that. This guy got kicked in the back of the head, got about 30 stitches. But that was okay. Maybe it stunted my growth. I don't know. That kick in the head. Right. But that's the kind of thing we would do on a weekend, and or go hunting, or shoot guns, and go out in the woods. And
so how do you get to Canada?
Okay, it was. Number one, CFL would come down to Oklahoma. Not every team, but Ray Newman, who was with the Edmonton Eskimos for a number of years, and recruited all those quarterbacks that they got there for Huey. And then Ray became a friend because he would come down odd times of the year because the seasons were a little bit different, us starting in May in the CFL, and the NFL wouldn't start till really August, the end of July. So got to know Ray really well. And then a guy named Joe Faragelli.
Joe Faragelli.
Mike Faragelli's dad. Yeah. And then Joe was a head coach at Edmonton, and he was on other staffs too. And I think Saskatchewan, he was a head coach.
Yes, he was.
Time. And so I got to know him, And they're telling me, and then back in the day, the athletic director, head coach at Texas, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name, had played in Edmonton. I'll call you later today when I remember his name.
Okay.
So he was from down there, and I knew him too. I mean, just because of Oklahoma, we'd have these big athletic banquets, and we'd have all kinds of people, and there were like Chuck Fairbanks would be in there, and Chuck had left Oklahoma. That's when Switzer got the head job, and Chuck went to the New England Patriots, and then so that was kind of my key going into the Patriots. He had left and gone to Colorado, and everybody said, well, you know, he wanted to be the athletic director and head coach in Colorado. So at the end of his career, really in National Football League, he went and went to Colorado. So that opened up. That was because I got to meet some people from the Patriots. Mike Hollaback, who was a historic. He was in the same PT crew. Well, I guess you could call him squadron. During World War II with John Kennedy. Oh, so wow. You know, on the same, they were in the same battle station. So, and then that was kind of cool talking to him about all that kind of stuff. And those boats were made of plywood. And they're getting shot at by destroyers and submarines, and I mean, just all kinds of stuff. You know, and a lot of history there. So, so that opened that all up. I got to know people because they were scouting for NFL teams. A guy named Tony Rosano, Dick Steinberg was maybe a name you remember. Rosano was the one that helped put the 49ers Super Bowl teams together. Right. He was the personnel guy, assistant GM, eventually the GM with Bill Walsh.
Bill Walsh, the Walsh years, right?
Yeah, and see, there's another hook. You know, we played Stanford in '78. In Stanford was our opening game, and Bill had just come back. From I don't know if he was at California. Well, anyway, he was a head coach, and then the head coach for Minnesota Vikings was on the staff, and there's another name I'm forgetting. But all these guys were, you know, you would see these guys all the time, and then they talk to you, and you call them up and say, hey, Coach, can I get some film from you? Like when Coach Bud Wilkinson, historic Oklahoma, he's a guy that won like 56 games in a row in the 50s. Wow. In the 50s, and Oklahoma, I don't know what, 3 or 4 national titles, and you know, was all. And Bud became a senator, but he did ABC college football. That's probably, if you remember way back, I'm a lot older than you are, so you know. But he used to do Bud Wilkinson used to do ABC or CBS college days, and then he, at the end of his career doing that in TV, he took a job with the St. Louis Cardinals, and he would call. And I was like the film guy too. So if you were looking for a film, you were a coach, and you went, well, you check it out. Our guys, you know, our players at Oklahoma, you know, they'd call me to get some film, 16 millimeter film, no video then, 16 millimeter in the cans, and send it out for them to see what, you know, or they could come here, so, you know, to Oklahoma. And we'd have 50, 60 NFL scouts go through the whole season. I mean, right in through the winter and the spring, and these combine things that are happening now, they weren't like that back then. You'd have a little workout at your school with your seniors. And that was pretty much it. And then come along 1980s, that's when they started the National Football League Combine. And the first one was in Phoenix at Tempe. At you know,
so you're bringing all the college talent together.
Yeah, they're bringing all the count. Yeah. So I was living in Phoenix at the time, so it was kind of cool there because I was working in the United States Football League, but yet I went over and mingled with everybody. So when I was mingling with everybody, there was Ray Newman was there. Ray goes, Mike, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to have to get out of here. We just, you know, the ownership's changed from, you know, George Allen's resigned, and the life is changing again. We're going to load up. Now I got 2 children, you know, and start packing again. At least we didn't buy a house in Arizona. We had to sell the house in New England. But and he says, hey, Mike, this is Ray Newman, the Edmonton guy. He says, hey, there's openings in Calgary. Hamilton's got an opening. Their personnel guys leaving. And I said, well, Joe Zuger was here last week, you know, at practice, the Arizona Wranglers practice. And he said, yeah, Joe was the GM. He said, call him, tell him. His guy's leaving. So, and I said, yeah, I met him and talked to him. And then, of course, he was real tight with Frank Kush. Joe was, because he had played at Arizona State for Frank Kush. And I knew Frank just from being there in town.
Tough guy.
Yeah, tough guy. Yeah. Hey, he worked in the coal mines in Pittsburgh. He just didn't,
Tough man.
Yeah. And so that was an opening. So I started calling Joe, and then I knew Al Bruno.
Right.
Al was at Harvard when I was at Brown at the same time. So I'm going, well, I know that guy. And I called Al one day. I said, Coach, Mike McCarthy. He goes, I know you from somewhere. I said, yeah, Brown. Brown. About 2-3 years ago. Whatever. And it's funny. And he says, well, I'll tell Joe. I said, no, I meant Joe. He's gonna fly me in. I just want to give you a heads up that, I always kept calling you for a job at Harvard. And he wasn't the head coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Harvard at the time. But then he got a job in Hamilton, as a scout in '82 or '83, something like that. And then he left Harvard and came here. So, and then of course Al played with the Argonauts back in the '50s and on that Super Bowl team. Grey Gup team. Grey Gup team, and then he played for he was a hell basketball player at Kentucky. He played for Adolph Rupp and Coach Bruno's, but he had been around the block too.
Rupp, they got an arena named after the guy, right? That shows you how great he was.
That's it. So, so that was it. That was my opening of the door. So I get here. Joe calls me. I fly in here in March of '85, and Ray Jones picks me up at the airport. First,
Legendary.
Yeah, and
legendary doctor.
He talked for an hour, never stopped in the car. We're going over the bridge, go over the harbor, and he's just telling me all about Hamilton. I said, Ray, I've been here before. I'm not, I said, my parents lived 5 hours that way, so in New York State, and then. And I had scouted all the CFL teams that spring when they went to training camp in May. So now it's the year later. It's a year later now. So I said, I've been to Regina, I've been to Winnipeg, I've been to Toronto, I wasn't at Hamilton, I was in Ottawa, I was in Montreal. So I went to all these places scouting. There's practices in the spring, and then, to see who we could, if there were some prospects that we could bring, because we were paying good money in the United States Football League. Back then, I'll bid all the NFL teams for the players. And a lot of guys stepped over and played. A lot of those great quarterbacks that ended up playing at
Jim
Kelly. Jim, I drafted Jim with Chicago Blitz. And he was the first. He was on the territorial list for Tampa Bay Bandits. Okay, that fall, going into that spring of '84, Jim blew his shoulder out. It was '83. I think he blew it out, and now his draft stock dropped. Okay, so there was a pro day, like in February or March, where he was throwing. So Coach Allen got me a ticket and went down there and watched practice. He said, how's he? I said, you wouldn't know anything. You wouldn't know he had anything happen with him. He was just a tough guy. And he was from Pennsylvania. My mother's families are all from Pennsylvania. So it was like, talking like somebody I knew. I had a lot of cousins in Pittsburgh. I got 1,000 cousins in the state of Pennsylvania, going back to the 1690s. So, and my mom's side of the family, they Schoen, German. So, I'm a nice mix, Irish German.
Quality.
So that got me going, and then to get back, just knowing people, calling. And I said, can I help you out with any people you might be looking for, put on your neg list. I know about the neg list and all that kind of stuff. So Joe flew me in. Ray picked me up. And I was here for maybe 3 or 4 days, just showing me how everything works here. And, I said, yeah, okay. And then I had a lot of information for players and prospects, and specifically quarterbacks, because if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going anywhere.
Especially in the CFL,
yeah. So, and that thing Barry Switzer said, get the best players. It was always in my mind to do that. So that was the start, you know. And then I brought a computer system with me that I had used in the United States Football League, and it was a big printout where I could put your name in there, and then
kind of like a spreadsheet,
like a spreadsheet, and it was the old, it was like the IBM ones, not like no desktop computers.
No, I mean we're talking mini right now, right?
You walked into a room and it's like a machine in there, and it's the size of the room, you know. So and that all started at Oklahoma. So I worked with the computer people there to do the breakdowns after we what they call padding. And this is a Belichick term now. He uses that term, but he learned it from his father. You know, you're watching video, you're watching film, and you're all just taking the everything that happens on that. You're watching all 22 guys. You're watching all the 11 guys on offense,
right?
11 guys on defense,
and taking notes.
You just draw on every line, every in, every out, every go. You know, the traps. I mean, everything. You know, and then you're evaluating the player at the same time. Oh, this guy plays a little too high. So when I did scouting reports at Oklahoma, that really opened me up to scouting and evaluating personnel. I would take notes about how a guy was not playing well, or he was really nailing a guy, and I said, okay, this guy's their best tackle. Look out for this guy. He follows the play. You know, as a linebacker, the safety comes up real quick, so maybe we could beat him on a deep pass or something like that because he just reacts. Yeah.
So you're fully taking notes on players.
Everything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's stick with this team here. So you're with the Tiger Cats now, and you know you were talking about a team that had been knocking on the door for some Grey Gups. Bruno's the head coach. Talk to me about that '86 squad that got over the top.
Yeah. So '85, we went and played in Montreal, and we came back. I think we were 8-8 or something like that. And I had brought Hobart. Tedford was here. There was another young guy, but Jeff Tedford was a starter at the beginning of that in training camp. And then I said, well, and Jeff, you know, turned out to be a hell of a football coach. I mean, he's all time.
Sure.
And so we start the season really slow, '85, my first year here. And we'll win some, we'll lose some. You know, it's like, you know, you're like even 2-2, 3-3, next week, 4, you know, that kind of thing. And then I said, Joe, well, we got this Hobart kid he wasn't with me, but he was he's out of Idaho, and he played for Jacksonville in the United States Football League, and he was the run guy. Our PO guy, you know, and I'm coming from a wishbone, Oklahoma.
Old school.
You know, Billy Sims, Elvis Peacock, David Overstreet,
big names.
Kenny King.
Kenny King.
These
Oakland,
guys were all there with me. I was with all these guys. You know, the best. You know, a couple Heisman Trophy winners in there. You know, an Outland Trophy winner. You know. This is what the best look like. This is how they play.
So you got a good vision of this, of how it works.
Yeah, and I was her daddy, and I ran the dorms, the athletic dorms, and then I was strength coach too, and that was a new thing too. That strength coach association was just starting, and a guy named Boyd Epley up in Nebraska started that whole thing, and it's turned into this monster thing now. You know, so.
Well, so you bring in all that stuff to Hamilton.
Yeah.
All that knowledge.
Yeah, and then. It was like, okay, you're not the GM, you're not the head coach, so just slow down a little bit. I'm just saying, hey, I like to win. I just come from the USFL. I went to two championships in the playoff. You know, I said 3 years, you know, Chicago and then Arizona, and then I was at Oakland for the spring.
Right.
And then they changed ownership, so I said, hey, this ain't going to work. So, my God, and Vince Lombardi's son took over, Vince Jr.
Right.
Me and him didn't get along.
Right. It's all right, though. You're not going to get along with everybody.
No. Right. You know, he's got the Italian temper, and the Irish part of me would come out every once in a while. So I wasn't worried about not getting a job. You know, I just always got a job.
Well, you knew too many people at this point.
So,
you knew so many people at that point, though.
You know, it is who you know, and you know, what you take to when you're around people like that, or even you hear people you work with in the studio, or you take a little bit when you go to a next job. You take a little bit of that DNA from who you were working with.
That's how you learn.
And that's how you learn. And so I got a little. We call it the scouting tree or the coaching tree. tree, or broadcaster tree.
No doubt.
Who was your boss, and who was doing this, and how did you work at it? And me at Oklahoma was 24/7. You didn't matter what you were doing. You were always breaking film down.
So that '86 team. Okay. Why was it so special? What happened?
We changed quarterbacks. Hobart came in, and then I brought in another backup, Tommy Porras, who was in the USFL with me, in Arizona. Tom was in Chicago, and Tom was, and I don't know how many people know this, was from the University of Washington, and he was Moon's backup.
Oh, Warren Moon, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, but at college at the University of Washington, Porras was the backup to Moon at the University of Washington.
They won a Rose Bowl. Yep.
Yes, and then so I brought Tommy up here, and of course I had him in the USFL in Chicago and Arizona, and then Hobart came in, and I can remember the day he flew in late in Buffalo, so I had to go pick him up. So, and I get there, he's at the airport, and I said, okay, we got to go across the bridge. I said, I don't have a work permit for you, so we might get stuck for a while. And it's already 1 o'clock in the morning. And I go and cross, I said, I'm going to take one of the Whirlpool Bridge, or one of the other bridges. Maybe won't be so busy, or and guy just who's this guy in the car with you? I said, here's my work, because I just came in too. I got a work permit, to and not yet citizens, but we're both. And I said, I have one for him, but he hasn't signed it yet, but it's right here.
Okay.
He said, have him sign it, and then I can let you go across the bridge.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then that was the start of the '86 change. And then in the morning, I took him right to training camp. We were in training camp at Brock, and Mike Farragelli, who was the offensive coordinator, got up early, and Mike liked to walk and jog maybe in the mornings all the time, and I'm just, I still haven't gone to bed yet, and he goes, "Who's that linebacker you just brought in?" And I go, That's your starting quarterback, coach." He goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah, you'll see." So. And once Hobart got on the field, he threw for 11,000 yards in college. He
ran really well.
Yeah, and he ran really good. And he was like, a Mustang loose when he, just started running around. He was, and then we changed our offense up because of that too. And instead of having a lot of guys go deep, we have Ken had a good arm, and then of course he have 85 team. He was a part of the 85 team. He popped the shoulder out at that game in Montreal, and that really cost us the game, and we had a couple other things happen. But the foundation of the '86 team was part of that,
right?
And we had brought in a lot more younger DBs. I had another kid from the USFL, Lance Shields, played for 4 or 5 years here, and led us in tackles and as a secondary guy. Les Brown was here, and Les, he got hurt in that week, that '85 game, and then that hurt us big time, and. But so '86 comes, and we're getting better. We're getting better. We don't again. We're playing with 37 guys now. We don't have, the rosters were 37 guys.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you're. And then the Canadians were key. All your Canadians are key. You got to have your best Canadians.
Still to this day.
And it's that's the lifeblood of the Canadian Football League is a Canadian player, and. Now we're getting so many different nationalities coming in for the global thing, which is fantastic. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
That's
they're all Australian punters.
Yes, they are. I can't. I'm working with somebody in Australia right now, but I can't talk about it until it's all done. So, but so that was the start of it, and then I brought Mike Kerrigan in too, and Mike I had seen when I was with the Patriots.
That's right.
But he was playing at Northwestern.
Because he's backing up Grogan, I guess? Steve Grogan?
Steve was still there, yes. Steve was there. And then Matt
Cavanaugh.
Pitt, out of Pitt.
He
became the starter.
Okay.
And then
East, is that before Easton? No,
before Easton.
Okay.
Before Easton.
Mm-hmm.
I drafted Easton out of Illinois. In that USFL draft in '83, along with Kelly.
Yeah, the big one. That was Kelly, Marino, O'Brien. Blackledge.
Yes, Blackledge.
He went number 1.
Yeah, his dad, Kent State. His dad was a head coach at Kent State. Good guy, really nice guy.
They're still talking about that class to this day.
Yeah, and so that was the start of what was going to happen in '86. And then we had traded for, actually just picked him up for nothing, Miles Garrell, play left tackle. And we had made a trade with Toronto for John Milanowski. Okay, so now we got two big guys, big tackles. Okay, and Miles was so athletic. I mean, I still don't know why he was not in the National Football League. I would have, this guy needs to be him and Walby.
Right.
Both.
Another legend.
Bring him. Let's get him down there. Okay.
Well, a couple guys were always going to fit through. They're just.
Yeah, well, sometimes the personality. I don't want to play in the United States. I mean, that could be what it was.
Right, at that time, too.
But it's guys that he had all the skills. I mean, he was on the kickoff cover team, Miles. No, you got 310 pounds running down the field, and you're a running back. You're the return guy. It's like, a fly hitting the wall, So, but Miles was fantastic, and John was smart, and the Michigan State guy, but a Canadian guy, and now he's a Tim Hortons king. He's got a lot of Tim Hortons too.
Yeah, he's done very well.
We got a lot of guys, Andrew Grigg and Walter Bender, and Walter Bender was another guy in '85, '86. He showed up for us. He really came through for us. Because Johnny Shepard was the running back.
John Shepard.
And then he got some injuries. Okay, he just couldn't stay healthy. One of them years we can't stay healthy, and it just drives you nuts when stuff like that. You always want, I got to replace him. We got to replace him. And then finally we let him go after, But I think it was '87 we let him go.
He put in some quality years.
He sure did. He certainly did. Tough guy.
Now let me ask you about this, because I think this is something that gets highly underrated. We'll say. So you've had success now with the Tiger Cats. You guys win a Grey Gup. You make the move to the Toronto. You're doing double blue now. You sacrilege.
I know.
Right?
I know.
But you become an Argonaut.
Of course, you got to sign me.
I know. Well, obviously, maybe it had something to do with the money, because a guy by the name of Bruce McNall, John Candy, and Gretzky.
I was there before that.
Okay, I know you were there before that, but the things got good then.
Yeah.
And that year, '91, before. Yeah. Starts off with a bang. Now, everyone talks about Shohei Ohtani. Had he come to Toronto, would have been the biggest signing of all time in Toronto sports history. I argued with a lot of people that I said, okay, I don't know if this is going to happen or not, and maybe it would be. But in my opinion, the greatest, most shocking signing of all time in Toronto sports history is Rocket Raghib Ismail. A guy that
Westchester, Pennsylvania.
A guy that finished second in the Heisman Trophy. Arguably, or not even arguably, he at the time was the most exciting college player we had ever seen.
If he had stayed in school, he would have won the Heisman probably the next year.
But we'd never seen anything like this, a kick returner like this, especially with his size, at Notre Dame of all beautiful places. Yeah. And he's expected to be a first round for sure in the NFL.
See, New England had the pick. Okay. New England had the pick.
Okay, so New England had the pick.
Then they had Rocket had this Team Rocket, like these 12 different agents working for him for all this marketing stuff going on. And New England goes, they trade the pick to Dallas. So
he could have been a Cowboy.
He could have been
but instead, he's an Argonaut.
So
how did you pull that off?
Money. And it wasn't my money.
Well,
but you know,
if I remember correctly, a 4-year, $26.5 million with about $18 million guaranteed. Yeah. And what I do remember, even more so, is that it worked out to about $6.5 million per year.
Yeah.
And the greatest player in the NFL at that time, Joe Montana, was making $3.5 million.
Yeah.
And here he is. Here he is in Canada, cashing out.
2 years we had him. You know, 2 years, but then my quarterbacks kept going down. And that was the biggest. Going into '92. Mm-hmm. Matt Dunnigan got hurt again.
Concussions.
And Matt, he missed as many games as he played for us for 2 years in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And then crazy Winnipeg Cal Murphy, when he went to be a free agent, he gave Matt the deal of the century, but we treated Matt really well. I mean, even Bruce McNall and took Dunnigan and Rocket to Vegas, bought him some. They've had a great time. Mm-hmm. This was pre Rocket signing before we, made the deal. So
how hard was that deal to pull off?
It was we actually did it like in 5 weeks. So here's the deal. You're John Candy and Bruce McNall and Wayne Gretzky, and it's after we do the big announcement they bought the team and blah, blah, blah. And we're sitting in Ralph Sagio's old office, which was Ralph's office with the exhibition place. And my office was right next to it. We just opened the door up. And he goes, Mike, come on, you got a minute? I said, yeah. So this is before the Rocket. This is the start of the Rocket thing. And then McNall goes, well, who should we really want to make a big bang here? I said, I get it. I know that. I said, you and I talked about that, Bruce? See, this all was going on the year before, but I couldn't tell anybody about it with Harry and selling the team to McNall, okay? Candy and Gretzky came in later.
Yeah.
Okay. But we have been communicating. And Bruce had an agent, and Harry had more than attorneys, more so than agents. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of in the middle of all that, And then because I had to take over for Ralph, because Ralph took off, he retired. He hires me, and one day he goes, "Hey, Mike, can you give me a ride home?" I said, yeah. I said, what, you don't have your car here? I had to turn it in. It was something from one of the car dealerships in Toronto. I said, okay. I said, I got my van out, my caravan, because I got kids, I got the caravan. And he says, help me pack some of this stuff. I go, where you going? What are you doing? He said, I didn't tell you yet, did I? I said, no, I'm retiring. He says, you can do all this. You're okay. You can do all this. Harry likes you. Now you get to take them home every night, like I've been doing for like 4 years or 3 years, whatever it was. And I said, I was like dumbfounded, I just got the job like 5-6 weeks before, I mean, and this is in 90, in 90. So I went through the whole season as the acting president. We had a guy that was part of Exhibition Place president, and he tried to do it, but he couldn't do it. He wasn't a football guy. He wasn't a sports guy. Mm-hmm. So I just wrote it out till the end of the next year. Until 91 came. So, but they go, well, who do you like in the NFL draft? This is Candy, McNall, Gretzky, and I said, oh, the Rocket Ismail. Well, who's that? Who's that? I go, I'll show you who he is. So I had a little video and put it up. And I said, yeah, he just, like 2 months ago, he returned 2 touchdowns in the Orange Bowl against whoever they were playing, Notre Dame. Might have been Michigan. I'm not sure who it was, who the competition was, but I don't remember that. But that's how that started. Mm-hmm. And then I said, I can give you a breakdown of all the rosters, all the salaries, okay, in the NFL. And I said, how are you going to do that? I said, well, my attorney agent is in the NFLPA. I'm not going to say his name. Mm-hmm. But he has, all that, the salary information.
Got all the info.
Before they made it public.
Okay.
Now it's on the screen like a minute later,
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that then, Mm-hmm. So that was a lot of fun, And then we started. Then I get a call from another guy named Ray Newman, another different Ray Newman, a black Ray Newman. Mm-hmm. And he goes, Mike, do you remember me? I said, where? He said, I saw you at the Shrine game. I said, when?
What year? I'm there every year.
What year? So it didn't matter. He was like the head of the Team Rocket thing, you know. And he says, is this for real? Because I hadn't, you know, because it hit the wire like so the Kings, the LA Kings, are playing in Edmonton like 2 or 3 days later. Okay, we're down there, and we've been keeping this quiet, you know, that we're even going to attempt to do something like this. And I said, we got the money to do it. Number one, you got the money, and you know, I mean, he's got the hockey team. I mean, you know, and he's got, you know, he's a coin collector worth millions of dollars. I don't know how that all worked out, but I'm watching the hockey game because the Kings are playing in Edmonton. This was like a month or two later, whatever hockey season. And intermission, hockey, first intermission, they put Bruce on because he was in Edmonton. Because he probably was cleaning up the deal he made with the Oilers when they brought him Gretzky to L.A. So, and he puts right there. We just met with the general manager, Mike McCarthy, and Toronto, and we decided that we'd like to pursue Raghib Ismail from Notre Dame because he's projected to be the first-round draft choice in the NFL draft. And my jaw just dropped, you know.
Sure.
And then the phone rings at my house in Stony Creek. No cell phones yet, okay, for 2 or 3 hours. I never knew so many people had my phone number. And it was like Boston. Yeah, because I was a Patriot, so they all got a kick out of it.
Yeah, you've already laid down 25 years of connections, right?
So it was funny as hell.
Like, people don't realize how big this was.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge. And I'm trying to just keep it, you know, especially the money part, you know. And, you know, I've been around a lot of people with a lot of money, you know. And, I mean, with David Braley. I mean, David, yeah.
He was a zillionaire.
I'll tell you what, he did so well. You know, thank God for him being around at the time we needed a guy that had, you know, and
two teams.
Two teams. And then helping out another one that nobody knows about.
Right.
Okay. There was a little backdoor stuff going on, and he's fantastic. It's a shame we lost
what he's
him,
done for McMaster as well.
So he calls me. Dave does, because I had left Hamilton to go to Toronto after that '89 Grey Cup, which is still the greatest Grey Cup ever played.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and it's a shame that the referees didn't know that it was just going to be the greatest game, and they were horrible on that day. I get on their ass all the time.
It happens. It happens.
And then Bill Baker was like the acting commissioner, right? So I get called by Ralph about 10 days before, and he wanted to talk to me. He says, I already talked to the owner, Harry Ernest, Mike, and I said, he said, hire that guy in Hamilton if you can get him. So, I mean, I had been there 5 years, and we were in 3 Grey Cups and 2 playoff games, and, you know.
No, they were successful.
So it was, you know, just a shame that we didn't win them all, you know. So I went to 5 Grey Cups with Hamilton and won 2. But and then I went to I've been to 9 Grey Cups, and won 5. So yeah, whatever. But that day, Braley calls me and then my phone, and he said, "Hey, Mike, I was going to, you know, offer you the job as GM." And I said, I wouldn't do that, David. I said, that was Joe. I mean, Joe brought me here, and Joe's a GM. And he said, no, I'm going to make him president or something. You know, just, you know, you would be in charge more of the football stuff. I said, well, I'm in charge of everything over here. Right now. I don't know how long that's going to last, but so that was kind of cool. You know, we stayed in touch. You know, then in '96 I go out there when they sold the guy that owned the BC Lions, and that was '96. It makes me president, and I'm trying to get an owner for the team. Comrie, Bill Comrie. Bill Comrie. Okay. His sons played hockey. His boys.
Yeah, that's right.
I think one of them's still playing. Someone, or one of his, maybe it says.
I think that had something to do with the brick.
He owned it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Bill, he was a good guy to talk to too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go out there, and Skelbania had bought the BC Lions like he did with the Montreal Alouettes in the 72 or 3 or whatever that was that he turned the L's into the Concords, whatever that year that was.
Jeez, Concords, not good.
Yeah. That
wasn't a great
just
idea.
throw that out there. So now now I've been working for Harry Arness, McNall, Candy, Gretzky, Skelbania. I mean, it just was kind of piling up on top of each other. So just how funny that all came down. All the money that these guys had or didn't have, and
you could do some things you were able to have that flexibility, right? That financial flexibility to get some players. So let's go to 98 here, okay? So you had the success here in 91, the late 90s, the late 80s with the Tiger Cats, and the Tiger Cats. Let's be honest, they were going through some hard times.
Yes,
they're going through some really, really, really hard times, and then you check in, reappear with the Tiger Cats, and it all starts with the acquisition of the likes of Coach Lancaster, McManus, and Flutie, and things changed.
But we had the foundation, though. So even though we were a very poor winning team in '97, we had some of the better players on defense in the league, and we had our offensive line was pretty good. Things were getting, because I was getting guys from the United States Football League, the original. Then the NFL Europe started. Okay, so then we were getting a lot of our players we had signed were going on that option year. If they signed a one-year option, a one-year contract, all contracts have an option. So that option year, because we owed the NFL money, I don't know, $5 million or something, from other, like bailing us out during bad times, and which was great. And that was, it wasn't Roger Goodell, it was the other guy, the other commish down there. Tagliabue, yeah. And then they go, well, we want to hire Lancaster. Okay, so this is when I come back from being out in BC. Okay, and Grant McDonald owned the team. So in '97, I ended up being the guy because they fired, Sudgy got fired as the head coach. Urban Bowman's hired. He's on the staff. And then the end of the season, McDonald and Grant said, okay, Mike, hey, this is what we're going to do. Can you go out? And I said, well, I heard a whisper about Lancaster getting fired or going to leave the Eskimos. Because, I mean, him and you were lifetime friends. They were teammates. But something went awry there. I don't know. I go to David McDonald. I said, I'll go out to the Grey Cup was in Edmonton that year, '97. And I went out there, and David McDonald went out there, and I was having the GM meeting, and I said, Hugh, can I talk to you? Because he was sitting there too. And Hugh had just come back too. He'd been bouncing around the USFL, the NFL, went to Houston for a few years, and then came back more of an administrative role with Edmonton. He's probably got 15 Grey Cup rings. I mean, I don't know. This guy's, he's been around a long time, So, so that deal happens, and we get Lancaster. I talked to Ron. I had dinner with him in a hotel there. In Edmonton, was it Sheridan? I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but so I met with him, and Ron was a guest coach with us, all in the '80s, pretty much '85, '86. He'd be not doing the TV stuff.
Yeah, he was doing the TV,
he would be with us, as a guest coach down there and working with the quarterbacks. Worked with Kerrigan, worked with Hobart. So that was really good. And of course, I had Ronnie Jr. with me. And he really isn't Junior. He's got a different middle name. So in Toronto. So I had his son with me too.
He was a bright offensive mind.
So we had a little contact there, just working it together, and so '98. So that all goes down. We get Ron's going to sign. He signs this deal, but he wants to be the director of everything. but he didn't get the GM job, but he got. And then Neil Lumsden was here, in and out. In between, he got here in '95 or '96, whenever it was. And Neil was like they gave him the title of GM Business. Okay, so everybody assumed he did all the football too. And no, he didn't. It was me. Signing the players. I just controlled what I wanted to control. But now Ron wanted to have all that control.
Right.
And I said, okay, do what he wants. I don't care. I can live with it. No big. Just make sure you give me a little bit more extra on the side here. Yeah. Pay me. They go, I got you. I said, okay. So, but the key was both Flutie and McManus were free agents. And that's where that started. Now here, my Brown University connection, Darren's oldest brother, Ed, was our backup quarterback at Brown University. And turned him into a wide receiver because he wasn't that quality. He wasn't what his other younger brother was, Dougie. So I know him, kind of knew the Flutie family from that year and a half I had at Brown. And so we tried to sign Doug at Brown and offered him everything we could offer him in the Ivy League. And he was right there at Boston College. He wasn't going nowhere. Even though he was the 7th quarterback on the roster. Everybody knew this kid can play. He just, do you have the balls to put him out on the field at 5'9" or 5'7", whatever? He could whip the ball, and his hands weren't tiny for a guy that's only that tall. He had pretty long fingers.
But there was a stigma. The quarterbacks had to be 225, 6'3" with the arm, right? That was the way the quarterbacks were looked at.
And Doug, Doug could do. He was a magician. He'd go this way and then that way, and then almost he's doing the Mahomes stuff that's going on now. That was Doug was ahead of Mahomes, and didn't have that kind of arm, but he could find the open guy. He was great at finding open receivers all across, and so
there's the term that they use a lot right now, extending the play. Right?
And he's out there for 25 seconds running around with the ball in his hand, and then he throws it, to wear them all out. So he was, so there was a connection there too. And then Darren knew that, and then I did the deals, put them together. I said, well, how much? I go to the how much can I pay these guys? How much you gonna, So he said, well, you just do what they want, see what we can get done, and make it work. And I said, check with Ron. I said, oh yeah, sure. And so I go, and my office at Ivor Wynn and Ron's office, it was the old GM office that Sazio had and Godar had, and Joe Zuger had, and we put a wall retainer between it. So we had one door, and then of course I had a little door going into my half, and Ron was in his half. So that was kind of, you can hear everything going on. Anyways, there's no soundproofing in that place, and so that led to the beginning of it. But I said, Ron, we have a great defense, we really do. And then we brought Sudsy back as a defensive coordinator, and brought along Dennis McPhee and who else was on that staff defensively. I don't even remember. Maybe that was it. Linebackers, DBs. Sudsy did both. He did head coach.
Yeah, there was less coaches than there are now, right? I mean, specialty coaches now.
And
right?
That's crazy now. They got 18, 15 other.
So many. It's just so specialized now, right?
And we only had 5 guys in our footballs.
Right.
We were operating with Harold Ballard at $2.5 million a year. And we stayed under that cap. We stayed under that cap.
Right.
At that time, that's what the cap was.
That's why Harold probably loved you guys.
Yeah. I had some great times with both those guys. Him and King. I miss those guys.
Yeah.
Some funny stories. I could tell you some stories.
I think I know too much about Harold. We can't go there. But
here's a quick one. Okay, 1 second. Okay. 85 Grey Cup. I got to pick them both up at the airport. Okay, I get them both. Getting them in the car is another thing, okay? Then we go to the stadium. We're going to the Big O, and we're going down there, and now it's packed. They came in late. I'm driving through all this traffic. Grey Cup day in Montreal. Kickoffs at 4 o'clock, but seemed like that long I was in the car. And get to the stadium, I got to turn into the. We had a parking. I got the parking pass to go into the basement and park down there. But meanwhile, here comes a parade of Mounties on motorcycles and horses with the Prime Minister, Mulrooney, in the limo to turn right, and I'm across the street turning left. So the copper goes. He goes, that's it. I said, what? I got to get these guys in there. And they go, well, you can't go ahead of the Prime Minister. I said, well, I got King Clancy and Harold Ballard here. I said, that's only the Prime Minister. Without these guys, this game ain't happening. The guy goes, okay, stops the procession. I'd make the left turn, and I go in there, and King goes, Mike, wow, you must really know somebody. And I go, he was such a sweet guy, and it was funny, and I'm just going, I started crying when I think about it, you know. And then we lost him in '86, you know. But it was horrible. But that was one of the funniest things I ever. I don't know who that cop was, if he got fired or what. I don't know. Whoa! You know, I could think it was a King of England or something. You know, you go, who? You know.
When you think about that 1996 team, 1999 team that won, what was so special about that team?
Same team, tweaked it a little bit. Had better pass rusher, got another pass rusher. Had couple guys got hurt the year before that were healthy. And we owed beating Calgary. I mean, we had some bad games out there. And, you know, even 98, you know, we go ahead, Eric Jamerson gets a little out pass, scoots down the field, scores a touchdown. With like, I don't know, a minute 2 left on the clock, whatever. So we're going to kick. Are we going to kick the extra point, or are we going to kick, or go for 2?
Go for 2.
I said, just kick the point. We're ahead. Puts us ahead. And it's only going to be like 58 seconds on the clock. That means you know. And now they're discussing it. Penalty. Move it back. Then we miss. Then we don't go. We don't kick it. Nothing happens. We. Tried to throw a ball, it was a sack, and then we have to kick the ball off. Ozzie kicks the ball off, and he, probably the worst kick he ever made in his history of his life. It came up short. It was like inside our 50-yard line. Okay? So that's another thing I learned at Oklahoma. Always kick the ball over the 50-yard line.
Please.
So, and then they got the ball, and they came right 3 passes, kicked the field goal. That was it.
But that was the sour taste that was left in the mouth, and why that 99 team
and it was the same
responded. And you were facing the same team, right?
Team. Like and then
Dickinson and those guys, and you're getting them, and you got them, got them. And the crazy thing to me is this community that loves Tiger Cat football so much. I mean, people rave about, the people in the province of Saskatchewan and how much they love their riders. We're seeing, I would say a recent revival of the Blue Bombers in Manitoba and what's going on there. But the Cat fans have been waiting. They've been loyal. Yeah. And I'm going to leave you, this is my final question for you. With all the years, leagues, all the things you've done, and I know you're still in contact with some of these people too, because you're Ticats Walk of Fame and all this stuff. Halls of Fame. We got a new staff in there right now. There's Coach O's, the president or whatever, and gone from the sideline, and a new head coach in Milanovich, and Ed Hervey is the GM.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would tell them that you would say, this is the way to do it?
Knowing Milanovich, because I was with him in Montreal, right, for 5 years, and we went to 3 Grey Cups in a row, and 8, 9, and 10. And
with Anthony Calvillo, who you got here in Hamilton.
Yeah, well, I brought him here, and then Sudsy did the first contract, the first guy, and then I went out of town for a while, and then I came back, and then we were giving him his option. He had played his option, so but Ron didn't want him. Lancaster didn't want him. So that's how he ended up. We just put him on waivers, and because we signed Danny.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, well,
it's okay. I mean,
but we didn't have the money that was to him was going over here to this guy, you know. So we couldn't keep him.
No.
So.
I mean, Danny paid off.
Danny, and he was, Dan, awesome guy, tough guy,
for sure,
and could throw the ball.
Quick release.
Yes, he did. Well, of course, when we shortened that little gap too, he would take like a step back and then hit Pluty or Emerson or Grigg, or Morreale.
Yeah.
We had a lot of Canadians on that team too.
Good old Mike.
Yeah, we had some deep guys, and it was.
But what would you tell these guys now? What would you tell them?
Just make sure you have or form a team of winners. Where football means a lot to them, because you got to take it a little farther. You take it the next step. The unity of the '86 team and the unity of even the '98 and the '99 team. These guys all hung out after practice. They'd have barbecue. They were a team all day long, all night long. These were guys that loved each other, and that was really cool. To see this. And. And just make sure you got a healthy quarterback. So that's why I kept bringing them in, because they kept getting hurt. They kept getting hurt. You got another one went down. Another, in 1990 Eastern Final in Winnipeg, I'm playing with our fifth quarterback. That was with us. It was Johnny Conjemi. Then it was Tommy Porras, and Dunnigan was down. He didn't play in that game. Ricky Foggy was hurt. He didn't play in that game. And that was it. I mean, we ran out of quarterbacks, and it's like you have a quarterback, and it's like the eye of the beholder. It's not just about you having great ability and signing guys like that, but you want to think about it like this: is that that ability is what you really feel. You get a guy to come in, and you got to battle people, So, but it's all changed now. The money's higher now. There's $5 million point something on the salary caps. It's like seeing, the Tiger Cat quarterback, Bo, Bo Levy there, Mitchell. It's a shame he's been hurt. He's missed as many games as he's played in. He's like that
was a tough year for him last year.
That 50% played, it hurt. So, and I think Milanovic knows that. Scott's he's cool. I mean, I was around him, and I tried to sign him here back in the '80s when he came out of school out of Maryland, and he went to go into coaching. He said after he bounced around some NFL training camps for years, 4 or 5 years, I don't know. And then I said, I hit him on the mega list, and he said, hey. He said, "No, I'm done. I'm going to coach."
I think he made the summer. I think he
did pretty good. He did good. Yeah, so I think you're in good hands in that. And Orlando was part of. I scouted Orlando at Western Washington State University.
How good was he?
He was good. He was a whole team. I mean, he was special. He was special. Yeah. And then I had him on the neg list at one time, and then I took him off because of something. Then he signed in Ottawa, and then we got him back. And a couple years later, 4 or 5 years later, whatever it was, and so it's about and you want people that want to be here, and this is a great town because we're so close to everything else. You got Toronto here, but then you got Detroit, and then you got here's Buffalo, and then you got Syracuse, New York, and you got Albany, and Boston. I mean, you're on that thruway. You got 401 and the QEW and the I-90 and going anywhere else. Yeah. So it's great. It's a great recruiting area. People, the Golden Horseshoe that's what we have, some of the finest athletes in the United States and Canada and North America, and the coaches that coach them it's all about them, because they're the guys that are training these kids and getting them ready to go on and become professionals if that's what they want to do. So it's an eye of the beholder. And again, you can't always get your own way. Right. And I mean, sometimes I'm an a-hole just because I'm just I was the little guy that grew up and I grew this way and got strong, and everything else. But I knew I had a tryout with the Dallas Cowboys, and I said, it's like, I said, okay, when I put the pads on? No, we don't do that, with a tryout. I said, well, that's the best thing I do is tackle people, so whatever. But you learn to. I get so many little guys coming up to me and going, hey, how do you do? I said, well, get in football ops, do something else, because you ain't going to play pro football, son. I didn't used to say that to kids, but now I do. I just
let them know up front.
Yeah, right? Tell them the reality. And I've been doing the football camps, some around in Rochester a couple weeks ago, and had over 100 kids over there. And they were all college kids coming out, all U.S. college. Some of them flew in from California, Nebraska, Idaho. I was a guy from Idaho, a couple of kids from Kansas. And at this camp, we had a pro-level camp. I just helped the guy. I know the agency owns it, and I just help them out and do a lot of stuff. And we talked to the kids afterwards. And we had a guy from the Kansas City Chiefs there came over for the camp, and a guy from Calgary, a guy from Edmonton. And it was good, to see we had other pro personnel people there that are really looking at the kids. And we would tell the kids sitting there on the gym floor, this is what you need to do. And this is how hard it's going to be to get there, okay? Right. Because you really have to dig down inside, and you got to have the size, you got to have the speed, you got to have there's always an exception. There's always some guy that doesn't have all that, and he gets it done, and that's from all inside, from his heart, So it's been a good ride, and I'm not done with it yet. I'm still doing what I can do.
Well, the best part about it, Mike, is you get to do it on your own clock right now. That, after all the years of experience that you've put together and hearing some of the tales and how you pulled some of the moves off and some of the lessons you've learned, I think any person that appreciates football on both sides of the border certainly appreciated this chat. So I appreciate you coming in there and being so open and honest. And I mean, these are incredible stories. I mean, like you put together, 5 decades of work, and we're trying to compound it into like an hour.
I know. I get Gabby too. My wife keeps going, well, just say what you want to say.
I hear you, though. I hear you, but just because there's so much knowledge, and I can certainly understand that. But
she gets on me, and the coaches I've worked with, here, and
all of it.
Yeah, all of them, you go back and just say, hey, George Allen. Barry Switzer, all the assistants, all those guys won 4 or 5 national championships. Then they go on and win a Super Bowl. Barry gets the Super Bowl when Jerry and Jimmy break up, when their marriage broke up, right. and Barry goes in there. But Barry coached both those guys at Arkansas. See, people don't even know that.
No.
He was the freshman coach for Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson at the University of Arkansas.
Well, and that relationship, as you said, didn't go well, and then Switzer came in there, and then Switzer wasn't happy with Johnson, and now it apparently sounds like they're putting up Johnson on the Wall of Fame, and everything's good. With
81 or 82. Barry's now 83 or 84, and it's just It is what it is.
But you said it, though. You said it several times. It's about the relationships that you make and maintaining those relationships. And that's why when I talk to a lot of people around not only the Canadian Football League, but the National Football League as well, too, that somehow your name comes up. So, again, appreciate hearing some of the stories and tells. I hope you come back again. Maybe there's some other stuff that we can talk about. But, I think I'm going to cut that little piece out there, and I'm going to send about your advice to this year's squad. Because for the fans, 25 years is long enough. We want a Grey Cup here. I mean, because I look at the legendary tapes of the parades that you guys were a part of with the Argonauts and, of course, with the Tiger Cats, and we need that back in this time.
Hey, just wanted to say, our annual AGM for the Tiger Cats is next Tuesday, coming Tuesday, and we're just reaching out to all our Tiger Cat alumni, whoever they are, to call us and go online, see, our Hamilton Tiger Cat Alumni Association, and then just Google that, and the email's right there. And then our golf tournament's at the end of the month on Flamborough, and go online for that too. And we're taking all comers. We're not taking just our alumni to the golf tournament. We're trying to mix all the fans with, and if you got a foursome or something like that. So that's all online with the our alumni
Well, I'll
association.
get that information up on our
and that way they can, just boom,
because those are great stories and some great stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, my man.
Thanks, Bob.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Oh, great stuff. Hey, folks, that's your Sportsline podcast for the day. And as you've just seen and heard, well, we love talking to sports, especially with someone with this much experience. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline podcast, I do want to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, 5-star, and subscribe button. And while you're at it, be sure to enjoy the other podcasts CHCH have to offer, like Newsmakers or Louis Butko. And I know there's a hot new edition of Trending Now, just ready to burn out. Hey, for the talented people that make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you soon.